Unless specifically indicated otherwise, the content expressed are my views only and not necessarily those of Lifeco Asset Management, LLC. The content presented is in no way an investment advice, solicitation, or an offer to sell securities or investment advisory services. The material is provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. I cannot assure the accuracy or completeness of these materials. As such, the information in these materials may change at any time without notice. Reference to these discussions about IULs and annuities or fixed insurance products. Investments on fixed insurance products are different from investments in the stock market. Any guarantees provided by a fixed insurance product cannot be assumed to be guaranteed for any other investment.
Welcome to the Rock My Finances show on K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV, where we put the fun in finance. Join Powerhouse Jennifer Jose, CDFA, CMC, and Private Wealth Advisor, as she collaborates with you to create clarity, control, and confidence with your money, your way. It's not about the zeros, so what is it all about? Let's find out. Now here's your host and weekly friend, Jennifer Jose.
Hey, y'all. So glad you're here. Today's going to be an amazing show. Can you actually say, I rock my finances? Now, I know most of us can probably say that once in a while, but maybe not always. And this is my mission on this planet, is I want us all to become worthy of wealth. I believe that once we feel worthy of wealth, yes, I already said the F word, feel worthy of wealth, then we actually can make a change in the society and in our country and then in our world as well. And we actually lead an example to our family, friends, our children, our generations to come. So when you can say, I rock my finances, like you are doing way more than just alleviating your stress and creating wealth for you, you're doing so much more. And I find that a lot of my clients that come to me or people that are interested in money coaching, there's one big overall, I should say, drawback or blockage that's stopping them. It's because they can't be real. They don't know their numbers. They're being fake to the public. They're not showing up in their authentic self because they're embarrassed. They're ashamed of where they're at. They don't feel good about it. We all have that little voice in the back of our head. In fact, I do it too. I just did something. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, I'm not stupid. I'm freaking smart as hell. Like, I'm not stupid. But we have that little voice that's always beating ourselves up. Where does that little voice come from? And how does that little self-sabotage voice affect us in our life? We are going to have an amazing conversation today with Dr. Lee Pearson. She is one of my very good friends. I love her. I've known her for several years. And she is so intelligent. She's got degrees and degrees and degrees and all this great stuff. And she is going to talk to us about how playing music, it also creates or sabotages your self-image, which lends us right in to where we're at now with this fake world of social media. So welcome, Miss Dr. Lee Pearson. Let's get this talking.
Hi, Jennifer. Hi. I'm so glad to be here. And thank you for inviting me. It's such a treat to talk with you.
I love it.
Yeah, I want to say something right up front, which is that I am not a medical doctor. I have a doctorate in flute, of all things.
Of course.
I'm not a psychologist or a therapist, so all the things we're going to talk about today, which are related to the use of the body and how our mind works and how our feelings work, are all things that I've learned from 25 years of working with musicians who have all those same doubts. I'm not good enough. What am I doing wrong? I can never be good enough. You know, all these things. And by the way, most of the musicians that I work with are women, because I work with a lot of flute players, and a lot of flute players are women. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there up front.
I love that disclaimer.
I
love that. I'm going to piggyback on you. I have a psychology degree. That's it. I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I spent 10 years on the couch. I've spent another 10 years coaching with clients and all that great stuff. But you're right. This is just our personal opinions from meeting with hundreds and thousands of people, and money, beliefs, and sabotages are very similar to what Lee works with in her music students. And don't you teach teachers of music as well?
I do. Yeah, I do. What the piece that I work with is that everything you just said, money and our beliefs and our sabotages, are all in the body. So every thought you have, every feeling you have has a physiological component. It changes your chemistry, it changes your hormones and all of that. So when I work with teachers, I'm doing that because it was kind of a progression for me. I started 25 years ago. I got out of my own pain. I played in pain for 30 years. From the time I was 18, my hand started to go numb. I
Oh,
couldn't find any solutions to that. Nobody could help me. When I finally figured out, which we can talk about later, how I figured that out, but then I realized, wait a minute, everybody's having the same experience here. It wasn't that suddenly my hand went numb when I was 18. It was like everything I had been taught along the way about how to hold my instrument and how to play and how to breathe was actually creating tension, causing tension in the way I was using my body. And nobody ever asked me about that. Nobody told me that I could do anything about that. So I realized this is where the work has to be. We have to work with teachers to train them, just like, you want to train teachers in schools how to deal with kids who have trauma. We want to train our music teachers, and I'm not talking about school music teachers, band directors. I'm talking about people who, your neighborhood piano teacher, your neighborhood flute teacher, how to help kids who
I
deal
love
with these
that.
issues.
I love that. And every single time, like I can parallel almost everything that you say about money. So this is why Lee and I are talking today, because she talks about music and I talk about money. You also have a physiological reaction to every thought you have about money.
Yep.
Sorry, y'all. We absolutely do. So that's why we always want to look at what we're focusing on. And that is going to change, hopefully, your physiological feelings in your body when we focus on what's going right. It doesn't even have to be about money, but money seems to get us stuck. So let me ask you this, Lee, when you were growing up and learning all along the way, did anyone ask you, how does that feel when they were teaching you how to hold the flute?
Oh God, Jennifer, I grew up in the heart of New England Puritan culture. And the way I talk about that is that you weren't supposed to have a body.
Yeah.
But if you actually insisted on having one, you weren't supposed to talk about it. So, we grew up with that mindset that just, don't think about or talk about your body. So, no, nobody asked me anything about how I felt. Absolutely not. It was all the life of the mind. And that was supposed to make you important because you were smart and you could think about stuff and you could be educated, but don't take it below the neck.
Oh my gosh, that's leaving out 90% of who you are. I mean, our brain's
Yeah.
very important at all, but yes, I mean,
Well,
that's
the
part of who we
brain is
are.
connected to everything. The brain is everything. It's just that
Yeah.
when we start thinking, we tend to go up into our heads and we forget to connect with our bodies. Yeah.
Well,
And
we
so
love to talk. Go ahead.
it's just that Western culture mind body split. There are other cultures where they don't have that kind of language. They don't talk about a person as separating their mind from their body. We do.
Mm. Do you think we still do?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
why I like to say the F word, right?
Yeah.
My favorite thing is feelings. Like I was introduced to feelings when I was 29,
Hmm.
and I raised my kids talking about how you feel. Like my whole family used to make fun of me because that was the very first thing that I asked anything. Well, how do you feel? How does that make you feel? I had
Yeah.
feelings up on the wall. Like they're like, okay, you're crazy with these feelings. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like
I
they're
love
really
that.
important, but I
I
didn't know
love that,
how
Jennifer.
important they were until they are now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And still, even knowing all of that, I'm still not a master. We're always lifelong learners, right? So if you
Yeah.
had to go back to your little girl Lee, which we do a lot in money coaching, we go back to our inner child, and I'm actually doing some soul retrieval and stuff now on myself. So
Awesome.
we're always going back to that childhood. So tell me what you would say to your little girl very first learning how to play an instrument.
Well, I would do it completely differently from the way I was taught, which is that, if you think about how a baby learns to walk, it takes a long time, right? You don't see a baby go from lying on their stomach to running.
No.
that takes like a couple of years. So I always talk about baby steps, and that if you just give somebody an instrument, they instantly start focusing on the instrument and they go outside of their body and into how they're holding it. Just like you might think about, your checkbook or whatever. Oh, sorry, nobody uses checkbooks anymore. Or like the computer screen, you go into that computer screen and you forget that the rest of you is there. So I would start with baby steps and say, okay, let's take this part of the flute. Let's just hold it and see what it feels like. Or I would do, what I do with a lot of students, which is to use my noodle, which I call a flutel,
A
and
flute.
help them think about how to hold it and how does that feel? What do you notice? A lot of questions about what do you notice? Like I was just working with a pianist just half an hour ago, and they were complaining about back pain. And I said, well, what does it feel like to sit the way you're sitting? What do you notice about that? And I said, tell me everything that you notice. And so they described, how their back muscles feels tense and they're trying to hold themselves up and they're trying to sit up straight because that's what they were told to do. And I said, well, who told you that? She said, I don't know, everybody. But it's wrong, which is another conversation for another time. But yeah, I would give myself a longer period of introduction to the instrument and seeing what it felt like in my hands and how my body reacted to the instrument, so they can be integrated into what I'm doing, not something separate out here. Does that make any sense?
It does. And what I'm getting from that is everybody's going to be different then.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So this
That's
is really
cool.
important for teachers to notice and ask questions about what their students are experiencing.
In order
That's
to
what
take
we're
them to the
missing.
next step, because they don't even know what
Exactly.
the next step is until they know
Exactly.
where the heck they're at.
That's right.
Oh,
And
I like
I
that.
was talking with my friend Byron, who coaches executives,
Yes, love
and
Byron.
yeah, he was saying the same thing, that he's worried about, well, what do I say next? What do I do next? I said, you don't have to even worry about that. You just notice and think and reflect on what people are saying and get them to articulate it, and that will tell you what the next step is.
Yes, and we forget that because we're supposed to be the know-it-all
Right.
or the whatever, and we're supposed to have all the answers. Well, I can't have all the answers until I know where you're at with this
Ex-
one step.
exactly. And I have to say, in your coaching, Jennifer, you do that beautifully. I'm a
Oh,
fan. I'm a fan.
I got a fangirl. I love you. I'm a fan as well.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so great. And I just love how we can use the same terminology almost
Yeah.
on in both aspects, which is
Yeah.
very interesting.
And the
Okay.
other thing that was interesting about my conversation with Byron is that he used to be a figure skater and an Olympic coach for figure skaters. And he read an article that I wrote about all of this. He said, oh my God, it's exactly the same in the figure skating world. There's all this
Yep.
pressure on what you look like from the outside and how you have to conform to what everybody says. And it's very hard to find your authentic self, your authentic expression in what you're
Yeah.
doing, which is
And then even
what we're
have
talking
permission
about.
to do that. And since you
Yep.
led right into that, we're going to lead right into it. I'm in a male dominated industry. And when I came in the industry, I could not wear open toed shoes. I had to wear nylons. I had to have a blazer on, no dangly
Right.
earrings. My hair had
Right.
to be up. I had to be a man in order to be in this industry.
I
So,
remember those days.
yep,
Didn't have to do that, but I remember seeing women doing this. I'm like, what? The padded shoulders,
yep,
the little ties.
yep. And the white shirts. Yep. I had to be a man apparently in order to have a brain. And so I'm not doing that anymore, thanks to amazing coaches telling me I actually can have breasts and brains and be authentic. So, with that, I have stepped into my authenticity publicly. And I am out here, and sometimes I need my support as well. However, it feels so much better being real no matter where I'm at with my clients, with my family, with my friends, with my children, with my parents, like my mom. Doesn't matter. I am the same person. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
That takes so much stress and pressure off of me to be able to do that. I help my clients find their authenticity and have that show up in their money world as well. So
Yeah.
tell me what you can relay about being authentic and in music. How is that correlated?
Well, Um, there's so many different ways I could take that. I actually want to take it into talking about girls
Let's do it.
and young women because most most of the flute players are girls and women. So I work with men as well, and they have these same issues, um, but it's really exacerbated among young women. Um, and if you think about, what COVID has brought up, think about somebody who right now is a junior in high school or a junior in college. 3 years ago, at the one of the most important transitions in their lives, when they were starting high school or starting college, everything shut down.
Yep.
So they lost that incredibly important social network that they need in order to figure out who they are. I mean, there's some disadvantages to it, which we'll get into, but they're at that point where they're separating themselves from their parents, and they need to have another world in order to integrate in react with. And here they are sitting at home with their parents at a table, on Zoom. So I don't think we yet fully understand the fallout from that.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. But even more, I do a lot of reading about this stuff and about trauma because I'm really interested in not only integrating the trauma from my life, but also from my students, because a lot of musicians have trauma from this whole long period of having to conform to another set of instructions that doesn't fit who they are. And there was an article that came out recently in the New York Times, and I put the link to the report in
Mhm.
the chat. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This is a report from the Centers for Disease Control. They're talking about the effect of social media on adolescent girls in particular. And what they said is that in 2000, where is it? 2009, okay? Um, Fewer than 60% of eighth grade, so less than 60% of eighth grade girls used social media on a daily basis. And that then they were called social networking. When
Yep.
by the time you got to 2014, it went up to more than 80%. Now in 2021, it's even more than that. But what they found is that nearly 60% of high school girls experience persistent feelings of sadness and
Mm.
hopelessness, and almost a quarter of those girls made a suicide plan.
Oh my gosh. I did not know that.
So that is so heartbreaking to me. And this is what they said about it. It wasn't just that we took away the socializing in person, because this happened obviously before COVID.
Right.
But they said it changed the consciousness where, because of social media, people are constantly packaging themselves for public consumption and for popularity that other people say is what you have to do. You have to look this way, whatever it is. But all of this pressure on trying to make yourself look like somebody else. So where is the authenticity in that? You lose that. Think we've just been talking about this anxiety. What happens to girls when they're constantly in this anxiety? It makes them want to kill themselves.
Yeah. Because they're already so young trying to figure it
Yeah,
out. They don't
yeah,
have the foundation yet
that's
and
right.
then they don't have the brain matter to actually understand that that's not real, that social media is not real. So they think that when their friends are out or people are out doing all this, that that's what they really look like. That's what they're really doing. They don't know that they're crying a half an hour before that and throwing a tantrum an hour after that and fighting with their parents and whatever. They don't know that. They don't see that part. And I heard a study of this as well when I was in Seroptimus at a national convention
Hmm.
several years ago. And so, and it was an amazing speaker saying the same thing, that the fear of missing out, the FOMO, was so exacerbated. I don't believe that the suicide attempt was so high. And that was many years
That's
ago.
gone up since
This is
COVID. I think it's
crazy.
gotten worse.
This is
Yeah.
crazy. So being authentic and helping our young girls out. And I want to start with the moms, right? Because we have to be real about our money. We have to be real about who we are. I do Instagram, and my daughter always wants me to have better pictures, and I don't really care. Like I want to
Yeah.
be authentic. I'm authentic on Facebook, And I'm not really on there a whole lot, but I own a business, so I feel like I have to. And I feel like if we can be authentic, we can help our younger generation be authentic and show up and love themselves who they are. We're having trouble with us being worthy of loving ourselves. Can you
Yeah.
imagine that they have all this stacked against them? So how can we help this, Lee? How can you help in music? How can I help in money?
Well, I like what you said at the beginning about clarity and control and confidence. And then you said something about feeling worthy. And I really think that that's the heart of the matter, because this focus on the outside, what you look like on the outside, really takes away your sense of self-worth. And what I'm trying to help teachers do, and I'll just speak from the music perspective, there's a sort of a double thing going on with music, because we know that music is healing and music brings you
Oh,
joy. And there are so many people for whom band saved their life. They were
yes.
weird kids in school, and they got into band, and they had a group of people and they connected with, and they played great concerts, and they toured and did all this stuff. And there's the flip side of that, which is that even with all that great stuff, a lot of them were not comfortable playing their instruments. And more than that, were actually taught wrong things about how to use their bodies, wrong things about how to breathe, wrong things about how to sit up straight. And that's been hurting them. So I've worked with people in their 70s and 80s who are still trying to undo that. So I think this is where I'm coming from. There's another piece of psychology in here that I think is important. There's something called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And the research on that has been going on for a long time. And I'm not a researcher, but I read what I can get my hands on. And what it obviously, if you have adverse childhood experiences like trauma or divorce or moving all the time or all these things that are totally disruptive to a child, that affects your outcomes for health, both mental and physical, and income production, and all this other stuff when you're an adult. Which makes sense, right? If you're,
Totally.
but what they found, and this is what's so interesting, is that one constant caring adult can reverse that, can
Oh,
create resilience in the child and help them recover. Even if the rest of their life is shit, they can still, if they have this one person that they're connected to, this is why mentors are so important, they can change the outcome of
so
that.
this can be the music teacher that they meet with
So,
every week.
yes, what I'm saying is if you're teaching a music lesson to your flute student or your piano student or whatever, you may be the only adult that student has one-on-one time with in their entire week. Who
And
else
there's
are they going to spend one-on-one time with?
and that, like, yeah, really one-on-one
Yeah,
time with.
in a private room with the door shut.
Unfortunately, with movies, now I did take lessons and movies and media and all that. Those teachers aren't always very nice, Lee.
I know that's a problem also. But that's a problem with the whole model of teaching, that it's hidden. And that's what I'm trying to change. It's this sort of secret. One person calls it the secret garden. There's all this is going on behind doors, and there's a potential for abuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want teachers to understand you can be a leader. You have an obligation, a moral obligation, to create a safe space where students can come in and be themselves and not have to conform to somebody else's idea of what's right or wrong, and discover their own ability to be expressive, their own ability to communicate, because that's what we need, right? We need to find, just what you were saying, we need to be able to find ways to express ourselves authentically, which is not probably going to happen on social media. I mean,
No.
it's the same thing with musicians. We put out, the concerts we're doing or the posters for the concerts. We don't talk about the crap that goes on when we're practicing and trying to, we're spending hours trying to learn this one piece, and we're beating our heads against the wall. And, what my student today said, and she's an adult going back to playing the piano. She said, I'm so frustrated because I just can't do what I want to do.
That
So
makes
they
sense.
know what they want to say, they know how they want to express it, but they can't do it because of physical limitations.
Ah, and that's frustrating for sure.
Yeah.
And then we get frustration around money as well.
Yeah.
I love everything that you're saying about being authentic. Now I'm going to be the devil's advocate here because you have a parent paying for these lessons and the parent wants to see improvement and the child needs to feel safe and to find their authentic voice. What happens if their authentic voice goes against what their parent wants?
Oh boy. Well, I'm
Whole other
on.
podcast, right?
No, I've been lurking in several music teacher groups on Facebook.
Awesome.
And I'm going to tell you, this topic comes up all the time. The parents, a lot of times the parent will have an idea of how you should be teaching because that's the way they were taught. And you have to be confident as a teacher to say, this is my philosophy of teaching. This is what I know works. And then I encourage them to, really have a one-to-one conversation with the parent and ask them questions, just like you would ask questions as a coach, because if people are afraid of something or they're against something, there's an emotional reason behind it. There's
Yep.
some history behind it. And they think, well, you have to do it. Well, and then you get to choose, well, can I teach this student authentically or not? And if there's too much headbutting with the parent, sometimes you just have to let them go. But recently a teacher said it's so sad because this parent has made their students hate their piano lessons.
Oh,
And
and we
it's
get
not
that
because,
in everything, right?
yeah,
Sports, school, everything. It's the hovering parents.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it's not the teacher. The teacher has all the right ideas, but the parent is like saying, you can't do it that way.
right.
So that
So
does happen.
I'm sure it happens. This is so exciting to me because as you and I know from coaching and teaching all these years that, and we've always been told this, right? It's not what we say, but it's how they feel and how
Mhm.
we make people feel. And my clients know I love them to death. They know that I'm absolutely here. You're for, like, I could cry right now because I love you so much. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a thing. Like, my heart, I just love it. And if I'm visualizing like a music teacher sitting down with their student, and let's face it, we need money. I get it. Like, we all need money, but I would almost like bet everything against for this, that if your teachers, when you teach them and they connect from the heart to this child, and this child can be there and feel authentic and have this 30 minutes with this person every week and know that they have a safe, authentic place, that is so life changing.
Yeah. It's
Like,
golden.
it's golden. And once it clicks with the instrument as well, like, there's no telling what could actually come from that. Like,
Yeah.
this is so life changing that not only is your business going to flourish, teachers that need money, you're going to get referrals. The child's going to be happier. So the child's going to be better at home. The parents might not even know what the hell's going on, but the child's going to have a better outlook. Like, you're going to be helping create who this child is going to become. And so, of
Absolutely.
course, the money's going to flow in after that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are many wonderful teachers who do that. And some of the teachers in my training program have been able to do that,
Oh,
and
I'm sure.
get that reaction. The one thing I do, especially with slightly older children, especially, I'll have sometimes college students who their college teachers telling them one thing and their high school teacher told them something else. I'm telling them something else. I say, you get to choose. You are the only person who knows what your body feels like. You're the only person who knows what it feels like to hold this instrument and how you're reacting to it and what's going on. So I try to empower them to notice what's going on and make choices that are right for them. And they need that support. They need to know that I don't have to do everything my parents say. Maybe I need to, massage it a little bit, but when I'm playing my instrument, I can do it my way.
Oh, I like that. This is bringing back all these memories. I tried the
Mm.
violin, which just hurt. Everything hurt. I tried the clarinet. There's just no way I can make my fingers work that way.
Yeah.
I tried the piano, which I wish I would have stuck with the piano. I bought a keyboard when I started working with you, and it's still in the box, but I'm going to do that damn thing one of these days. I also, which I've said many times, which I know you already know, but oh my gosh, music to me is probably one of the most important things in life.
Yeah.
We must have music. I just drove to San Diego yesterday. I'm in Beverly Hills, so it's 2 hours to meet with clients. I rocked out all the way back.
Chair dancing, right?
I was so chair dancing. I was so chair
Yeah.
dancing. I had a total blast. And I'm like, oh, I get to talk to Lee tomorrow about music. Like, music is so important. It's so healing. It's so uplifting. It's so authentic. It's so like, it takes you right back in that time when you hear that song. I could just imagine if you could actually play an instrument, that all those feelings would even be 10 times better.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'm talking about is actually most specific to classical music lessons. So you don't get this so much in jazz or rock and roll because people are just generally a little freer. In fact, I do a workshop with students called Rockstar Warm Up. And I have them moving like rock stars, prancing around the stage and doing all this stuff so they can start to loosen up their bodies.
Ugh.
And a lot of times they'll say, look, go home, put on whatever music you love, whatever rock and roll you love, and just move to it and see how your body feels. And then bring some of that into playing your instrument. Because what happens, people pick up the instrument and they instantly get tense because they're trying to do it right.
Oh, perfect. Not right. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect too.
Oh my gosh, you're right. And the tense just starts right there. So I know we have you listed in the description and everything, but how can people get to what's your website real quick?
Oh, it's music-pain.com. You can see
I love it.
my name, music-pain.com.
Okay, awesome. So
Yeah.
people can actually get a hold of you. So tell me, let me see where we're at here. Oh, good. We have some time. So tell me a little bit about, well, I think us talking about the girls and the young women and what they're experiencing from social media and how an amazing music teacher can help cultivate that. A teacher can help cultivate that. Anybody, a mentor, anyone, any adult can be that light in that child's life right now. So that's number one that we want to say for sure.
Yeah.
And number two is, how can you spread this new way, this new modern way of teaching to teachers? How do you do packages? Do you do workshops? How do you fix us, Lee?
Oh God. Let me say something first before I do that, because I do want to address that. But what you said in the beginning about clarity, control, and confidence. I feel like money coaching for teens, financial literacy for teens is huge, because you could be doing that same thing with young women and girls and college women and people right out of college, is empowering them in that way. Because the way you do money coaching, it's not, well, you have to get your budget, you have to plan what you're going to do and blah, 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 put it in envelopes and all that stuff. You actually help people determine what it is that they want and what they really want, what's important to them. And so that process is about clarity and confidence. And when you get clear on what you want, then you have a little more confidence about how to go forward with that. So
for sure. Thank you. You're absolutely right. I've had a lot of parents. I always say, as soon as they get their first paycheck, send them over. Like, I have kids around the table when I used to meet with everybody in person, like, let's bring them in. Let's teach them why is FICA taking all their money and what, and when they're, I have families when they're in debt or when they're doing things, put the bill on the refrigerator. When you pay that down, celebrate. You take everybody out to dinner. Like, it's a family situation, just like addiction. It's not a one person thing. It's a family disease.
Yeah.
It's a generational situation. It is not a one person, oh, he's the bad thing, she's the bad girl. That's not what it's about. Yep. And so is money, and so is music, right? I mean, we all learn from our family household.
Yeah. Yeah. And I fortunately came from a family of all musicians. And I was the youngest. So there was never any question that I was going to be a musician. But the unfortunate part was that my mother was a violin teacher. And she was very critical. And so there was always this pressure, to do things right. And she could hear me practice because there weren't a lot of doors in our house, and I never could be as good as my older sisters. I just couldn't, because I was younger. So that's another story.
But
Uh,
that's big right there, because that
it
falls
is.
in with everything else, right?
Yeah.
That's very important. I don't think we've really talked about that too much. So, um, critical teachers, parents, any type of teacher,
Peers, your critical
peers,
peers, family
yep,
members. Yeah.
family members, anybody. It does change our belief system. And this is what you and I are trying to
Yeah.
help people create new. I want
Yeah.
you to have new money beliefs, new self-worth beliefs. You're having new teaching, new music beliefs, your instrument, all of that. And
Yeah.
that's what it takes, is to create new beliefs, because we are all badass and amazing the way we are right now.
Yeah. And of course, those outside voices become your voice. And that's where the real work is. The
And we
changing
don't
that
even
inner voice.
realize that.
No, we don't. No.
We
So
don't even realize that, oh, wait a minute, I don't even believe that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, how am I going to get the message out? Well, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm writing articles. I just submitted an article to this online flute magazine, which translates everything into 100 languages. It's all over the world. They got 1 million views. It's just amazing. And I write articles for them. I write articles for other flute, or I just wrote one for the Flute Society in Washington, D.C., where I was last weekend. And I said, look, things aren't changing. I wrote my book 23 years ago because I was hoping that we could make some changes, but the rates of injury and pain are still high. And I listed all the things that I saw, all the problems that I saw. And I wrote it as an invitation. I say, let's get into dialogue about this. Let's talk about what we can do to make changes, because I'm tired of being a voice in the wilderness crying out. So I'm starting to think bigger. I really want to put together sort of a symposium of teachers where we can talk about all this stuff. I'm getting incredible responses in the little mini course that I'm doing right now. I post a video every day, and I ask them questions like, when do you first remember being criticized or criticizing yourself? What did that feel like in your body? How did that affect your ability to play? And how has that affected you as a teacher? So I'm putting different questions up each day, and it's phenomenal the way people are responding. They are so vulnerable and so honest. I feel like I need to take all these quotes and somehow package them and put them out there. I put a post on Facebook saying all the things, I think you saw it, all the things that I'd heard at this conference that were the pain that people are in. And I swear to God, Jennifer, I got more responses from that post than anything I've ever put up. And
Wow.
it brought me 40 people to my challenge mini course this week,
Oh,
which is more than I've ever had. So I'm starting to feel like, people have told me this before, you need to be a little more,
real.
not just real, but a little more powerful in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Put it out there. Don't worry about what people think. Just say what you see as true. Not everybody sees it, and not everybody's going to agree, but this is what I see, because I invite people to talk to me about their pain, and they talk to me. They tell me things that they don't tell anybody else.
Oh, yeah. So you're a front line getting real information.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I didn't even think of that part.
I'm not a researcher, so I can't make a report about it, but I've had short conversations with over 900 people over the past 20 years where they tell me these things, and in-depth hour-long interviews with at least 150 people. And then I go to do workshops at colleges and schools and stuff like that, and I see all these kids in pain, so I talk to them.
And that's just not good. That's just,
No, it just breaks my heart every time, Jennifer. I come
oh, I
out.
bet it's so painful.
I love this conference, but I came home just like, oh, geez, we
It's
got to
just not
change
getting
this.
out there. Yeah.
So
I'm so glad
that's
for
good
you.
for me. It's good
Yeah.
for me. COVID kept me home. Now I'm starting to get out there, and I'm realizing that it's just as bad as it was before, if not worse.
Yeah. And I want to add another element onto that, because I feel the same way about women feeling worthy of wealth. Like it drives me crazy when I meet someone. Like I literally just met a multimillionaire, 2 doctors, husband and wife. They're getting a divorce, and she thinks that she's going to walk away penniless. You're in a $5 million home.
Yeah.
That's not, but she has no idea. And she's just under his spell. And so it just is like, oh my gosh, and what makes the big difference there? And I know you and I both we want to be on, oh my gosh, music and money. We could do our own big stage. Like we want to be on a world stage somewhere for sure. And I love that. And I also want to add in the fact that on the way there, or in addition to, what really makes the difference is those conversations from you. You are creating the safe place for them, just like I'm creating the safe place for my clients. We do it very differently. Yep. And so just reading an article like we did here, it's going to be painful, and we see that, but there's going to be no change done. But when we meet with someone, like I always used to say, an hour with me will change your life. It's the same way, right? When they meet with us and they talk with us, we will change their life moving forward forever, because we're giving them a different way to think about it.
And there's a huge ripple effect to that. I think teachers and coaches don't always understand the power of that ripple effect, because it's not just the one person you affect, but it's them and their friends and their children and the other. I mean, it can just go huge.
And then unfortunately, most of our society, which is just the way we're here, is we think about every success and everything doing right comes in dollars. Yeah. And I know music teachers can't make that much money, because that's the first thing we look for. At least I did when I was getting my son guitar lessons. What's the cheapest teacher around?
Well, it's interesting, Jennifer, with COVID and, the media, there's a lot of people now out there coaching musicians on how to build a better business.
Are they good coaches?
Some of them are.
Oh, I'm good. I'm glad.
Some of them, I don't know. Because I don't sign up for these programs, but there's a lot of them out there. People realize, oh, I'm being successful at this. I can tell somebody else how to be successful.
Yes, that's wonderful, because we do want them to be successful. We do want money to go around. And this just dawned on me. My son loved his guitar teacher.
Yeah.
Like it was a young guy, they could relate. I'm going to ask him about that, because he loved it.
Yeah. What did he take? What were his takeaways from those lessons, from that relationship?
Yeah, I'm going to ask him for sure. I'll bring it to you on our next call so I can share that with you as well. Yeah, that's amazing. So going forward, if you are a music teacher playing music instrument in pain, call Lee, get into her mini workshop, check her out. If you have any stress around money, call me, jump on rockmf.com. Have a little 15-minute chat with me, and I'll see how we can work together. And Lee, what are we going to do going forward? Like, I know that we build each other up. I know you're in my coaching program. We meet every Friday. That helps us. We all need to have a community. So your teachers you have a membership.
Yep.
For your people, so they can get together as well. We need the support of ongoing. That's probably the first thing I want to say is we all need support. We all need help. Stop trying to do it by yourself, because you shouldn't want to do it by yourself. We're only going to get better, especially now. Oh my gosh. After our crazy last 3 years, like, it's time for us to reach out and get support for sure. We're not supposed to be able to do it by ourselves.
That's right. I agree.
I love that.
Totally.
I love that. So how can we help these young girls on social media besides, like, I literally am going to talk, I'm going to the movies tonight with my daughter, and I'm going to tell her I'm no more going to be cute, or not cute, but I'm not going to do any specialty things for Instagram. I'm over it. I'm going to be 100% honest and authentic.
Well, I think what we have to do is listen. We have to ask questions, and we have to listen and not try to impose our thoughts. So I'd love to know what she thinks about all of this stuff. What does she see in her friends and her peers and, people she went to school with? I think that would be fascinating.
I absolutely will ask her. She tends to be very strong. So I'm going to ask her, maybe, and I'll ask her other friends too when we meet over.
But that doesn't mean that her friends are strong just because.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What has she seen? What does she see in other people? How do they talk about it?
And they live on Instagram. Like everything. Like, oh, I just learned that. She knows more than I do. Like, I just learned that's on Instagram. I just learned. How are you? Instagram, oh my God, like it's a wonderful technique, like recipes and health things and
Yep.
good things for you about like all this stuff. So I don't want to put it down, like it's a great thing, but we just need to show up authentically so that everyone knows our whole life is not totally peachy and we can still be happy.
Yeah.
Even with that a child situation thing that you were saying. What was that, ACA or what was that?
ACE, adverse child experiences.
Adverse child experiences. I hate to make light of that, but I don't know anybody that hasn't had that.
Right. Well, they come in all degrees.
Yes, they come in all degrees. Oh my gosh, for sure, for sure. Oh my gosh. Okay, so showing up authentic. So I love thoughts create, words manifest. And so we have our mantras that we tell ourselves, and that we have our little yellow stickies and journaling and everything to make ourselves confident enough to be able to show up authentically and to be ourselves. And so I was just watching Mary Jane, and she has little yellow stickies everywhere in the house, and I love it. And that helps us remind us that we are amazing.
I'd like to add one other thing to that.
Yes.
Which is, and I've been practicing this more myself. Like if I'm working, starting to notice when I start to feel a little edgy about it, like I'm sick of the computer and I just, and just stopping. And what I'll do is I'll just go sit in my chair and do nothing.
Mm.
And just breathe and just notice. So taking the time, we don't take a lot of this time to notice how we feel and what we're, not just our emotional feelings, but how our whole body feels and what does it need? What do we want to do? Do we need to go outside? Do we need to have a cup of tea? Do we need to, watch a video? Whatever we need. That's a way of listening to yourself and becoming more authentic. The more you understand and do what you need, the better you'll be able to do other things.
I love that. I love that. It's so very true. We need to slow down and listen to our body. What do we want? And so we say and the next best step is what's going to bring me joy. What is the next best step that's going to bring me joy?
So literally I broke my foot 6 weeks ago.
Damn.
And it slowed me way down about half speed. And I realized, I could really pay a lot more attention to what I'm doing at a slower pace.
The universe said, Lee, sit on your ass and pay attention to it right now.
6 weeks. Yeah, right.
Now, that is something very interesting because you have already been doing that in COVID, right? But like you said, we had to slow down and we had to get quiet and we were by ourselves and stuff, but we weren't paying attention. So like what you just said just now, the foot made you say, oh, wait, okay, how does my body feel right now?
Right. And literally the next step, I have to think about how I'm going to make that next step so I don't fall over.
Yes. So now you literally have to look at the very next step. I like that. Well, last year when I fell down and knocked out my 2 front teeth, the universe said, let's just stop you right now and have you take a look at, I think it actually helped me be more authentic as well, because I should say less vain. Yeah. Because I had to show up in it. So.
Right. I saw you go through that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy. There's still some stuff there. I'm not completely authentic because no one saw me without my teeth. But maybe a couple people and that was it. Which would be hilarious now, but I'm not there yet.
I hope you took a picture so someday you'll be able to show it.
I don't know if I actually did.
All right.
Which I'm really bummed if I didn't. So oh, you know what? The dentist will have them.
Yeah, the dentist has them.
Okay, good. I'll ask him.
So that'll prepare you from when you're 90 and old and wizened and losing your teeth.
Well, those 2 will be there because they're implanted for life. So I'll have only those 2 teeth. Oh my gosh, Lee, you are such a gem to this world. We need music. We need to play without pain. We need to teach our young girls that they are amazing and badass just because they're breathing. They don't have to do and look and say anything perfect, that we love them exactly the way they are, and play more music and enjoy it. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Lee, thank you so much, y'all. Go see Lee, and I will have you again with our next exciting topic.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me, Jennifer. I'm so grateful to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lee.
All right.
Thanks, you all.
Bye-bye,
And I want you
everybody.
to be able to leave and say, I rock my finances.
Rock my finances.
We appreciate you joining us today, and don't forget to subscribe to the Rock My Finances YouTube channel for more engagement and bonus content. Tell me, what is your money story? Let's find out with Jennifer, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, every Thursday right here on K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV. It's not about the zeros, it's about the F word, feelings. Feelings Jennifer can't wait to explore with you next week. Until then, let's all say, I rock my finances.